Um,
How do I mute it?
I can mute it for you. And we're
Okay.
broadcasting.
Oh, I found.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Bilsbach, and I'm with the Central Mountain SBDC. And I'd like to welcome you to the critical business updates for businesses in the Southeast region. I'm filling in for John Whitaker, and we miss him this week, but I'm about to enjoy my first live Zoom call. I'd like to thank you. If you switch the slides. I'd like to thank all our amazing sponsors who help us put these webinars on. Without their support, we wouldn't even exist. Startup Colorado and its team, the Office of Economic Development, the various small business development centers, and also Ugala Commons, who usually facilitates this meeting. So thank you to all our sponsors. Next slide. Our agenda today covers our welcome, which I'm doing now. And then we actually have a great panelist, which is talking about small growers and farmers. And we have Lee Underwood with the Food Shed Alliance. We have Rafe Schroeder with Schroeder Ag Natural Beef. And we have Chuck Hannigan from Hannigan's Farms. And then we'll wrap up with Q&A. Next slide. To kind of kick off this webinar today, we have some statistics that are rather alarming from the Colorado State University. I know that each of you have probably already lived through some of this alarming news. And they are offering some food safety tips that are now online so that you can, in a half day, learn about all the food safety opportunities that we have. And also, I'd like to thank the CSU Extension Office for bringing all their programs online. So they have a large offering, and you can visit www.ext.coloradostate.edu to learn more about these different sessions. And I welcome you to participate in that. Next slide. And I was hoping that Kat could share some of the information about our CSU statistics.
Yeah, happy to do that, Jamie. Thank you. And thanks for all of you for being on the call today. So for those of you a couple of weeks ago know that we had Don Philmany from the Office of Community and Economic Development at CSU on to kind of talk about some of the initial impacts and some policy issues that they were tracking at CSU for our local producers. She and her team at CSU have come up with some initial basically impact numbers of what COVID has done for our local and regional markets. And basically to this point, between March and May, we've seen about $3.9 million decline in sales. And that's really a conservative estimate. So that, obviously represents a significant payroll decline, over $500,000. And then when you take that up to the multiplier, that's an impact to our producers and our economy of $6.7 million. And I know that the COVID epidemic has really focused a lot on the shutdown of businesses, and there's a lot of conversations going on about restaurants But really where we're seeing the most impact here is in that farmers market and direct to consumer sales, that economic impact of $4.9 million. So pretty significant. We're going to be having some great conversations coming up with our panelists about how they're overcoming that and how we're making sure that those pieces are staying connected. And for those of you that are interested in additional policy recommendations that CSU is working on, that link at the bottom of the page for you, foodsystems.coloradostate.edu/COVID-19. They are still working on policy recommendations to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 on Colorado farms and ranches, especially in regards to selling through local and regional food markets. So check those out. If you have input, feel free to send that along to them. And just with that, we're going to get into the more positive and productive conversation. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jamie and our wonderful panelists today.
Well, I'd like to say, as we all know, the national industry, the food supply, the loss of restaurants, closures, large processing facilities closing, and the slowness of the massive supply chain has really shifted. And these same disruptors have happened to our local food market chains. And with social distancing and having areas shut down where food can be served. So today we're going to talk about those disruptors, but we're going to also share the great news about how our different presenters pivoted during this time. So good afternoon, Lee. And I have to say, Lee comes from the Central Mountain region, which is the western side of the Southeast region in Chaffee County. And I'd like to introduce Lee Underwood with Food Shed Alliance. And Lee, can you start by kind of introducing yourself and then sharing what your organization does?
Sure. Well, I'm Leah, and I live in Salida, Colorado. Salida's part of Chaffee County in the central Rocky Mountains. We're a county of about 15,000 people. Salida has about 5,000 people. And I've been on the board of the Food Shed Alliance for probably 8 years or so. And we started in 2007. Very small, and have built successfully over the years. And we run farmers markets in for 20 weeks out of the year. And then we recently started a winter market in Salida. Yeah, so we try and support local business. We try and bridge and connect the local cottage industry and the local agricultural communities, and find them consumers, and that all takes place at the farmers market. So it's a really effective way to keep the dollar within the county. Last year, our market vendors brought in close to $500,000 in sales within a park, and it's been a really big community connector within our community, and it's helped jumpstart a lot of businesses in our community as well.
About how many partners do you work with?
Well, in a typical year, we have between 50 and 75 different vendors that come and sell through the markets. We have traditionally like 15 to 20 really stable agricultural forces. And then the rest are craftsmen and arts and crafts people and informational people that are also working in a buy local place.
Okay, thank you. Now, Rafe, I'd like to introduce you with Schroeder Ag Natural Beef, and thank you for joining us by the phone. And can you tell us a little bit about what you do, your produce, and how long you've been offering? Do you offer produce, or is it all beef, first of all? And what products do you offer?
So we're a family business, and we're really just starting to ramp up our beef bundles. We've always done it on a small scale, and we've never really done so much at one time. So kind of we're trying to just push volume, just how they butcher up. You know, if a 1,200-pound animal butchers up into 500 pounds of boxed beef, we're trying to make these bundles. And if you want 100-pound bundles, 200-pound, 300, and so on and so forth, we're putting like 50% ground beef in these bundles, and then 20 to 30 or 25 to 35% roasts, and then a minimum of 20% steaks, but as much as 25% steaks in these bundles. So it kind of gives us a little bit of variance, and we can go animal by animal if one animal might make more steaks or make more roasts and so on and so forth. But we're also doing a garden this summer. It'll be almost a 2-acre garden, and we signed up through Live Well Colorado, and we're supposed to be doing the elderly and the senior citizen boxes in Baca County. So we're going to be doing hopefully 60 boxes of produce a week starting the end of July through the first part of August, and we'll be doing it for 10 weeks straight.
So is that a pivot, a new model, or have you always operated that way?
Well, my dad and mom used to have a greenhouse when we were kids, and they used to do tomatoes, and we had the garden one summer, and we did a lot of pepper plants. And then this seems like our big farm takes precedence over the smaller vegetable stuff. And so we've skipped it for a few years. And then one year I planted a whole bunch of sweet corn. Me and my brother did for my wedding. We did a bunch of home raised sweet corn. So yeah, it's kind of hit and miss, but we feel like this year it's going to go over really well and just kind of go hand in hand with our beef business that we're already doing.
Well, thank you. And Chuck, how about you? What business are you in, and how long have you been in business?
Well, we're a family-owned operation. We're on any day, we've got almost always 3 generations on the farm, and that last generation would be the 6th generation in our line. We've been farming some of the same ground for about 114 years. We farm about 1,400 acres. We have the standard crops, alfalfa, all your grain crops, oats, oat hay, things like that. But our specialty production is in our fruits and vegetables. We raise, of course, the Rocky Ford cantaloupes and watermelons, tomatoes, peppers. We've got retail outlets. We've had a farm market the Hannigans have in Lamar since I believe in the 1960s sometime. We've sold direct to producers here in Swink or Lahana area since about that same time. Our ancestors packed and shipped watermelons and cantaloupes by rail beginning back in the 30s. So we have a little bit of everything. We do some farmers markets. I personally do the Bancroft Park or the old Colorado City Market on every Saturday morning. I believe this will be our 36th consecutive year of attending that farmers market. So we've got a clientele up there. We've seen a lot of times we'll see the grandparents or the parents bring their kids. Now their grandparents bringing their grandkids. So it's neat to see those generations coming up. So, but we direct market, wholesale. We use drip irrigation. We've got 27 acres of certified organic ground. We partnership with other growers in the area, Haricata Farms, which you'll see on the marketing of the cantaloupe at like Kroger's, Whole Foods. We share crop with them and work partnership and production in some melon crops and also pumpkins and things like that. And then about the last 6 years, we've ventured into extend our market. We've gone into agritourism. We have a pumpkin patch, corn maze, straw bale castle. We have multiple picture taking venue deals. We hosted a Alice in Wonderland wedding in the corn maze 2 years ago. So we're up for just about anything. We have a fun time.
That is awesome. And I can't wait to hear what you're doing to pivot. So thank you. And first of all, to the audience, if you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A box and we'll try to get to them at the end of the session. Next, Lee, do you plan to open with the farmers market June 1st, or what are the plans for reopening?
We are opening this year. We are starting our first markets in Salida on June 6th, and then we hold a Sunday market in Buena Vista on June 7th. And currently we are limited to only food vendors, or those are kind of the vendors that are deemed essential at this point. So we're operating the Colorado State and CFMA, which is the Colorado Farmers Market Association, has worked well with us to give us the guidelines that we need to follow as an essential business. And so we'll be operating pretty much more normally, pretty much as normal, but it will be more grocery store-esque as opposed to kind of this lively social environment. So our first restriction is it's only food vendors, so that's concessionaires and of course the agricultural producers. Arts and crafts vendor could be included if they are producing masks, if they're producing soap, if they're producing health products. All the vendors will be socially distanced apart. It'll be kind of like a one entrance, one exit, and it'll be more less visiting and more kind of just to the point shopping to get what you need so that you can go back home. There's not going to be any music or entertainment, which is hard for people, but I think we're going to do a really good job of still being able to be a food access point for the community in a safe environment. And I think that's a really critical function right now. And
are you required to wear masks, or are there certain distances with clients? Or?
Yeah, we would like to see everybody in masks. That is something that we're requiring. We'll have hand washing stations or at least disinfectant options throughout the market. And yes, social distancing, certainly for the vendors, we want to keep them safe, and for the customers as well. It's all in our best interest.
And Rafe, I heard that you recently switched to selling direct to your consumers. Can you talk about that pivot and why you chose to do it? And how else do you get your products out to market?
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, we've been raising all natural beef for a few years now, and a lot of it goes into the big pipeline of JBS in the end. And so we're trying to, with the COVID happening, we had a ton of cattle on feed and we didn't have any hedges. So we were kind of forced to either take our losses up front and just tuck our tails and get on with life, or Mama didn't raise a quitter, in my opinion. So I'm trying to make the best of the situation, really. And just, I feel like our community, this is something that helps our community right now. So at the same time, if we can help our community and it helps my family as well, what better time to do it than now? And there's a huge demand for it. So aside from everything else, if we can secure a local food source and become less dependent on the big corporations, that's how us Schroeders are raised down here. We don't want to have to depend on them corporations to get through with life. And we want to be as self-sufficient as we can. And unfortunately, that's just the whole way that this United States has moved in, is big corporations, and the small family farmers are being forced out.
Have you seen more demand now that beef prices are at an all-time high as far as local outsourcing and that type of thing?
I mean, yeah, we've noticed the prices going up in the stores. I don't feel right about that. We're going to try to go with the same prices that we are today moving forward. we asked ourselves, do we want to try to make money off this situation, or do we want to try to secure a customer base that's going to be here now and after the COVID goes away? Because this will level out someday. We don't know when it will, but I'm going to take the more of the approach, I don't have to have the very top dollar and make a killing right now. We want to be honest and honorable and have a fair market value price for our product and get it in the consumer's freezer. If we can't sell beef right here in Southeast Colorado, we won't be able to sell it anywhere. So there's no reason why the people in Campo, Colorado should be buying stuff imported from Brazil when we raise enough of it right here. And that's what's been happening. We've been buying other products when we raise it right here at home. So we got to figure out a way to get our beef in people's freezers, and then we can start expanding our market and going bigger and better. And because people demand the kind of beef we raise, it's all natural, no hormones, no steroids, no antibiotics. And we've been with these animals from start to finish. So to me, that's where this whole market's headed. And you're getting a quality product from people that they're doing it from day one to the finish. So.
Well, I know that there's been a big initiative again to buy local and to buy Colorado. So I think we all need to join in on that initiative and make it a focus, because I think the COVID does give us an opportunity for an awakening. So Lee, are you a member of the Colorado Farmers Market?
I was just chatting with Taylor about this. So I'm personally not a member of CFMA. Our organization, Food Shed Alliance, is a member. We're a market partner member with them. They are a really amazing organization. We had the annual meeting in Salida this year, right before COVID went down, and they have a ton of resources available. And they've been very communicative with markets around the state and also producers around the state, and they work hand in hand with a lot of legislative forces to help try and get farmers markets and ag production more in the forefront for Colorado economy.
And Chuck, how about you? Are you part of the Old Colorado City Farmers Market? And are they planning to open this season?
They've announced that we're going to open later in July. Normally we open early in June. As soon as we can start getting produce, we start going. So we're going to have a delayed opening there, and it's similar to Leah's situation where it's going to be the essential product. It's going to be a different type of atmosphere, but it is important that we get there because we are looked at as a food provider in that area. We have a lot of limited income consumers that we serve there. We work with, I heard Rafe talking about Live Well Colorado, and Live Well, we also participate with them in their double up program. So we have a lot of products or programs in which we deliver a enhanced program, I guess, to the less fortunate. Food stamps, they're able to buy twice the volume for half the money. So their food stamp dollar goes twice as far. One of the things that we need to do is we need to keep serving that client base, because that's important to our community. I mean, we have a pick your own here at the farm also. And so we have a lot of those families, they'll come out, they'll pick their own. So they get it cheaper there. So they're putting their sweat equity into getting it, and they're able to take home twice as much food. And that really helps some of these families that are struggling. And I think it's going to be more and more important this year. The other thing, Rafe's comments on the need and the push for direct marketing through this deal, through our food challenges that we've seen. Over the past few years, we've been trying to push back. I mean, USDA's pushed for the farm to table, farm to school, things like that. We're hearing a new phrase now, farm to door, where some farms are delivering right to the doors, and that's some of the challenges we're looking at. And Leah, I'm sure you guys are looking at the same thing at your markets. Is how do you deliver, keep the atmosphere and the things that people like to do a farmer's market. They like to come, they like to see that touch that tomato that's just off the vine, or pick that cantaloupe and hold it up and smell it, just picked 12 hours ago and things like that. But those are some of the things that we're probably going to have to modify our delivery to maintain good handling practices and standards. So, we're looking at box programs. I'm going to have a program where basically it's not going to quite be the selection. It's going to be a standard box deal. And I'll have a line where customers pull up, I'll drop their box in their trunk, and they can hand the money out the window. So if they've got a health concern and want to limit their exposure, we'll accommodate that. We're going to have to make some changes to maintain our markets and to serve our customers.
That's incredible, Chuck, and I so agree. And Rafe, we've had a question about your CSA program. Can you explain how people can get a hold of you and what you're offering?
Yeah, no problem. So, I mean, we started up on the CSA. Our baseline is the senior citizen program. So we need to make sure we can cover those initial 60 boxes a week. That's our baseline, and we haven't done the garden in a few years, and I'm confident we can do it. But I'm hoping that this garden will produce 2 to 3 times that. I don't know what we can expect, but if we can overproduce our baseline, and then we can kind of start a farmer's market on the side or offer additional shares in this garden, we're going to offer them up right away. I just don't want the horse to get ahead of the wagon, or the wagon to get ahead of the horse, excuse me. And before we got, I don't want to just want to make sure we're thorough, and I'm not selling a false hope. My granddad, Daryl Schroeder, was a big advocate in the American agriculture movement. And from a young age, us kids have been taught what real value and true wealth is. And Grandpa's number one question was, when I went to college, he never would call it college. He'd say, boy, when you go to that mental institution and you get out of that place, are you going to come back and generate true value and true wealth? And I'd say times like this, you realize what true value and true wealth is. And that's food and water and a little butter, some milk from a cow and some eggs and something to eat. And that's just how he's programmed all of us kids to think. So I'm really thankful to have had that upbringing. And I think we need to all be working more towards that, securing our own food and not depend on the corporations, because seemed like that was his number one no was, are you going to go to work for the corporation, or are you going to come back and work for true value and true wealth?
That's nice. Leah, I know that you offered the SNAP program. I saw that on Facebook. And can you tell me how that's worked for you? And are you doing a pickup or any type of CSA?
First, I just want to say, I so appreciate all of the things that both Chuck and Rafe are saying. And I really wish that you guys were closer to us and we could access your products in an easier way. We do the SNAP program, and we do double up as well. We're the only double up provider within our county. And that's a really important program for a lot of people, for them to be able to get those fresh, nutrient-rich, local products at a very I'm sorry, I'm trying to think, at a very accessible way. Like Chuck was saying, the double up from Live Well, they give they match $1 for $1 for every purchase, up to like $40, I think. So it's awesome. And what was the other thing you asked? Oh, a box
CSAs.
CSA, yeah. So in years past, a lot of our producers have they do their own CSA programs privately, but the market is a really easy access point for a lot of people. And so we have we had a significant number of people who would come and pick up their CSA box at the market. So we're also looking into how do we do kind of a drive-by food pickup box thing, kind of like Chuck was saying. And I know that the other thing that the CFMA has been talking a lot about is how the money kind of changes hands. They want that to be in a limited cash way as possible. So they're asking, you know, vendors to try and price so that change isn't necessary if possible, or to take it as digital as possible with credit cards and debit cards. So like a lot of these things we were kind of already doing, but it's just having to be a little bit more thought out now. And yeah, well, we're excited, but we're also a little nervous for sure.
Well, with the Alliance, did you, as an Alliance, have to access any federal funds or seek any outside financial resources to get through this time, or typically has this period been a lull? And so really, if you can find ways to make up for the summer, you're okay.
Yeah. So yes, it's been a lull this time period, but we haven't done the PPP or the EIDL loans, but we've been tapping into kind of small local financial resources. I was working on the budget for the organization, and I'm kind of projecting like 50% loss at least for the season, both for the organization and for our vendors at this point. And so we have applied for and we've received about $6,700 in financial aid essentially right now, and we're hoping to get around $10,000, I think, to make it so that we kind of break even for the year.
And Rafe, how about you? Did you have to access any federal or state funding or outside funding to kind of get through this time?
Absolutely. We're working with some SBA loans on the farm side, and then I've never participated in the CSA program. This is our first year doing that, so that's why it's kind of hard for me to guess yields and how many boxes we're going to have available to sell. But yeah, I mean, we're just trying to scrape by with as little as we can and try to kick the can down the road on a lot of these cattle and these crops, because it's not just the big farmers that's having a hard time. These small guys that are really efficient and do a great job too, they're struggling too. So that same dollar can only be passed around the community so many times before that dollar stagnates out. And we got to find some new revenue to come in and take its place.
And Chuck, what about your family business? Did you have to access any funding?
Well, unfortunately, we're always having to access funding. Farming is, it wasn't that long ago a family farm could farm a smaller amount of acres, and maybe they had an operating budget of $350,000 or $400,000 in order to make enough to actually support a family living. Now you're investing twice that much. There's a lot of $1 million operations out here, and all they're doing is supporting a family farm. We're currently in the process of looking at a SBA type grant deal. We're looking at increased costs. Some of the things we never even thought about when we got into this, we bring in H2A labor from Mexico, and so we have to bring them up, and the border was closed, so there was lots of considerations there. But things that we didn't, now that we're got our contracts to get them up here. We're looking at our van. You know, can we put 7 guys in our van and maintain the social distancing? You know, our housing. Are we going to have to go out and secure extra housing because we have to have more open space for these guys? So, you know, we're finding out new challenges each and every day, things that we had no idea we were going to be facing this time around. But you know, it's a challenge. And Rafe, I hope that last night you got some rain. You guys got some rain down there.
We missed it.
We got a quarter of an inch last night, and that's the first rain we've had in well over 100 days, I think. You know, for people that are watching this and don't know, southeastern Colorado is in a what the government considers a D3 drought. Farmers call it a world of hurt. You know, when you're looking at low prices, like Rafe was saying, you take cattle to the sale barn, you're getting record low prices right now. You're having to go out and buy the feed to keep them. These are not good times for agriculture.
Are there any organizations that are helping you through these hard times? Is there any support?
They're rolling out lots of different programs. There's drought programs. That's something I do on my farming's my hobby. I work for the Department of Agriculture on the side, and there's programs rolling out, just like there are all types of industries right now to help. But farmers are kind of an independent breed. They like to take care of themselves. They'd like to pull themselves up and get through this and look out after their neighbors. And next year is going to be a better year. So
I agree with that.
If you're going to farm in southeast Colorado, you got to act like it's going to rain tomorrow. And there's an older gentleman, Larry Bishop. He's one of my good neighbors and a good friend of mine. He told me, he said, Schroeder, just right when I was first starting out, he said, Schroeder, if you're going to farm in Backett County, you got to act like it's going to rain tomorrow. And I said, well, Larry, why can't I act like it's going to rain today? And he said, because the wind's going to blow today.
It's good next year country.
Yeah.
We are located up in the mountains and the wind is always blowing. It's crazy. Rafe, do you see any shifting markets that will actually surprise you in a positive way through this COVID-19?
I mean, if this COVID-19 does anything, what it's doing is wrecking the big corporations because they can't mass produce the food right now. So it's coming back to the farm more. Unfortunately, my main concern is the American people seem to have a pretty short-term memory. So will they remember who they bought meat from in COVID-19 and the year 2020 and 3 years down the road from now? Or will they just, for luxury and convenience, will they just start going right back to that grocery store and start supporting the big corporations again? That's my fear, because it's easy to go to the grocery store and spend $50 to $60 and get 2 or 3 meals. And when you come to the farmers markets like us and Chuck and Leah, I mean, it's harder to, it's harder to plan around. We're not year round. And so I can see the upsides of buying at the grocery store, but I just hope that these people realize that it all starts right here at the farm, and we'd like to go as direct as we can and cut out all the middlemen. And it's better for them and it's better for us in the long run.
I do know the state of Colorado is putting a big focus on buying local and buying Colorado products. So I agree. I hope we've learned our lesson and continue that in the years to come. Leah, how about you? What surprised you in the shifting market, and do you see new opportunities?
I definitely see new opportunities. I agree with Rafe's comment about the short-term memory. And to me, that's an education piece. It's got to be drilled home all the time. And I think it's really important to take these products and make sure that people know that there's a difference between the meat that you know, Rafe is putting out there and meat that you can buy for the cheapest pound per price at the grocery store. There's a big difference between them. They're not in the same category at all, and they shouldn't be compared as such. And I think that we've, as Americans, gotten really used to paying for convenience and paying a really cheap and unsustainable price for our food. And and it's a tough lesson that we have to learn, but the sooner we learn it, the better off everyone's going to be.
Yes. And we have time for one more question. So Chuck, what kind of makes you most hopeful for the future of your business?
Well, I guess, you know, this is an opportunity. We've faced challenges before, especially melon growers in the valley, and you know, we buckle down and we educate. We've got an opportunity to educate our consumers. We're here, we're sustainable, we're reliable, and we have a hell of a product. And so when we can tap into that, and we can help, like Rafe was saying, if they have a fantastic experience with us, they're going to be back. And you know, so we're going to cement through this thing. It'll go, and we'll make some changes. It's not the end of the world. We're going to make some changes. We're going to change some buying patterns, some consumer consumption habits, and life will be better.
I agree. I think COVID put everything in perspective about what really is important. And I agreed. I think Rafe talked about this earlier. Family and food and safety are really what's important. And so thank you all for joining us. It's time for us to close this session, but I'd like to tell the audience that we are recording this call and we'll be sending it to you automatically along with the slide deck. And for small businesses, we do have regional SBDC centers. I'm a center director for Central Mountain, covering Chaffee Lake and Park County. But if you get on our website, coloradosbdc.org/COVID, it'll show you all the different resources that we have, including free consulting, introductions and access to capital, and training to get through these hard times. For resources related to entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial communities, please go to startupcolorado.org. They are an amazing team, host to these calls, and just an incredible resource that the SBDC centers use as well. And to access these call recordings, we have a whole series of calls on other topics in 4 different rural regions that we do every Friday. So to access those recordings on their YouTube channel, go to Choose Colorado YouTube channel. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Pleasure to meet you, Rafe. Pleasure to meet you, Chuck.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Likewise.